Welcome back. After 5 consecutive weeks of moving down, the SP 500 is finally showing signs of a bounce. But do not let your guard down. This has all the markings of a classic bull trap. And while the economic data coming out on this week, so on Wednesday, tomorrow, and Thursday, is important here in orange, the most important one, the non-farm payroll and the unemployment rate, is coming on Friday when the market is closed. And so that creates a massive risk of a gap. This is from the last year when there was the breakdown around the tariffs announcement. But basically, this weekend has some potential for big things to happen as well. So this is why it's important. So today I will help you prepare. I will briefly cover Jerome Powell's soft pivot versus what he said at the FOMC. I'll give you an update quickly on gold, Bitcoin, silver, and the DXY. Then I'll show you quickly the housing, which is a leading indicator comparing it to 2008. And I kept the best for last. I'll show you the repair trade strategy, which can help you to get out of a losing position for free at a lower level. So let's get started. So at the FOMC, basically Powell was like, we might have to cut at the next meeting, and just to cut in general. So it was a switch from what the market was expecting. The market was pressing several cuts this year, and then everything changed at that meeting. But in the past 2 days, we've seen headline like this, where basically now it's like, we don't need to cut rates because of oil shock and all that. So it seems like they're quickly and quietly pivoting. Another one from today, saying that no need for rate hikes because of the increasing price for gas, all at the gas station. So that was interesting. And this was after the speech. So here's the video if you want to check it out on CNBC's YouTube channel of Powell's speech at Harvard. And it was interesting because when there were questions, especially about the private credit, which was not something that people asked during the FOMC press conference, I noticed some body language from Powell that kind of shows that he's sending the opposite message of what his words are saying. So if you want to check it out, I've timestamped, around 39 minutes, 29 seconds. You can see how he's holding his hands. Let me know if you see the same thing I'm saying. But basically, I don't see someone who's confident about what he's saying, and rather someone who's anxious and potentially lying. And same thing, a few seconds later, after saying everything is fine, he's biting his lips. I mean, I'm not an expert, but clearly it sounds like he's not believing what he's saying. So, between the pivot and saying everything is fine in the private credit after being asked, some things to consider. Now, I wanted to show you quickly so this is the housing index in 2007, 2008. And you can see it took about a year and a half before the S&P started to roll over. So it looks like there was a lag, but it peaked, in 2005. And then it just started to roll down. So we'll see, this is the housing index now. So as you can see, it peaked in 2024. So it's been less time, about a year and a half since the peak. But, this cycle could be going much faster. So this is something worth considering in terms of where we are in terms of the stock market. So here we are back on the SP 500. I just wanted to show you that back then here I said that we were likely to start the topping process here, just like that at the end of 2024, and that the level that we would most likely go towards was the peak level here, the top of the last year, 613 on the SPY. And so you can see that just yesterday we were at 630, so only 2% away from that level. Today was a bounce day. I finished the day around 650. It is possible that it continues to bounce for a few days or a few weeks, because as I showed in the introduction, it is very rare. I'll go back. So as you can see here, we had for the past 5 weeks been in the red, and so you can see that 5 is a number that we see often, 6 a bit more rare, 7 doesn't happen often, and 8 only happened once since 1965. So that's why I was expecting this bounce. I've been talking about it in the past 2 weeks, including on my email list. You can join the link in the description below. And this is just to show you that in theory we see some exhaustion. There's no capitulation yet, which is why I think it's a trap. But it's interesting to see how it's gonna go. And here's a zoomed in version to show you that despite the big bounce today, you have to put it in the context of it's been declining rapidly since here, and it's below the 50-day moving average in blue, which is going down, and the 200-day moving average while it's still sloping up. Look at all the days closing below. So we'll see how high the bounce goes. At the minimum, I'm expecting it to retest the 200-day moving average, which is currently around 662, and potentially the 50-day moving average as well, which is around 677. But I don't expect this to go back and do all-time high. It's still possible, but that's not the most likely scenario, basically. Now, gold. So this is more like a zoomed out version to show you the different move that gold has been doing since 2025. And basically, you can see that after the first flush, we had a big rise. Then Iran started, and then gold started selling. Most people were surprised, but I told people this was potential when people look for liquidity, and this looks like a good explanation for what has been happening. But the drop was massive here. Thankfully, there was a bounce on the 200-day moving average, and since then there was a decent bounce, like a strong bounce, and it's back. Even though it's below the 50-day moving average, it's still in a decent position. So we'll see if there's more downside, but I'm more optimistic about gold when I see this chart, and this is more of a zooming version if you want to see. Silver, a bit similar, didn't go as low during the dump around here, but it's in a similar position. So I'm not expecting big moves for silver and gold over the next few weeks or months. I think there's more digestion of the big crash that needs to happen. But eventually, I think this will go back up. It's just a matter of letting the market digest it. And so another zoom version for silver. Quickly on Bitcoin. So this is more on the short-term time frame. You can see that since the big drop and the big bounce, it's been in that channel. But the good news is that there was no close below that pink line. There was always higher lows and higher highs. So I'm expecting eventually for Bitcoin to reach around 80,000. And then that's going to be the first test and major resistance. So is it going to, stabilize around that level for another move up, or is it going to be rejected before maybe trying again later? This is just a zoomed in version to show you on the 4 hours time frame. Okay, now DXY. So this is the index measuring the dollar against the main currencies, like the euro is about 50% of it. There's the Japanese yen, Canadian dollar, and others. And I wanted to show you this trend line that starts at the bottom of the 2008 global financial crisis. And so this has been a very important trend line because you can see that most of the time this has held and bounced. And so, before the Iran war, there was a potential breakdown of that line, and then it jumped. And on the next slide, there's a zoom in. So you can see how this was the breakdown. And then since the Iran war started, it's been going up. There was a rejection here, which initially I wasn't sure what it meant, but with the current pattern, it looks like a bull flag. So it's when you have something like this and then a pause like this. And so next move is likely going to be up. We don't know exactly what's going to happen or what's going to cause it, but it's just what the chart is telling us, that the probability is for the dollar to continue to appreciate, which is not good for the stock market or commodities price in US dollars. However, it doesn't mean that it will happen right away, because as I mentioned, if there's the bounce in the stock market, usually the DXY would go down while the stock market and gold and Bitcoin goes up. So, there might be a little bit more time, like maybe a few days or a few weeks of the DXY consolidating before the big move. But it looks like the DXY might be getting ready to go back up. So we'll see how it goes. So now let's talk quickly about the updates for private credit crisis. I won't give you the whole story. You can check my previous video if you want the background. Basically, since my last video, there's been at least two important things that I wanted to mention. First one here, UBS. So, a big bank that was well known, has actually halted withdrawal for a fund for up to 3 years. So people wanted their money back, and not only did they not give the money back, but they said you might have to wait 3 years to get it. Like, this is kind of crazy when you think about it, because that's the kind of thing that can really start panic amongst people. Like, imagine the people being told this. Do you think they will try to sell other things to collect cash on things that they can? And so that could explain why you see moves on gold like this, because sometimes it's the only thing people can sell to get liquidity. This is the other one that's important, was the Moody's that cut the rating to junk on KKR. So it's important because in 2008, they were too late to downgrade many of the things that we knew after the fact were toxic waste. And so in a way, it's a good sign that they're doing it. They should have done it 6 months ago, but it's better now than never. So maybe that will start a cycle of people looking more closely to the actual, assets and valuations and how safe they are. But I thought this was an interesting turning point for the ratings to start being downgraded. Also, something I wanted to share, I've seen many people on social media saying, oh, this is nothing like 2008 for so many reasons. It's really small. And I wanted to show them this quote, or, you can send them the quote if you want, and take a screenshot from Bernd Bernanke when there was a commission after the financial crisis. And what he said was that the subprime losses were not large enough on their own to account for the magnitude of the crisis. And it was rather the system vulnerabilities together with the gaps in the government's crisis response toolkit that were, the reason why. And so basically today we have a similar situation because although we realized after 2008 that subprime was much bigger in terms of the effect on the market than we thought because of all the synthetic that was created and the derivatives around the subprime 1.2 trillion market. But private credit at 1.8 trillion is actually larger, like 50% larger than the subprime. So if the subprime was able to create that much damage because of everything that went around it, people who dismiss the subprime as nothing, as something that can create a crisis, they are really blind and not looking back at recent history. This is another slide that from a good video I watched on the Eurodollar University channel, and it shows you from the 2007 to 2008 the stage of the crisis. And I thought one of the points that was really important during this video is that it's not linear, it's not clear. You can see from the stage to stage, it's like a gradient. And there are some times where you see big periods of nothing happening, and then there's a cluster of things happening. Sometimes there's a stage 2 happening, and then you go back to seeing a few stage 1 issues, and then it moves on. So I thought it was a good thing to show you how a crisis can evolve and how we got to the end, which everybody is well aware of. And here you have the same thing basically, but for the current cycle. So in a way that we could say I started around August, September. And so that's where the first issues appeared. That's where, it really surged on my radar, basically. And you can see how, there was a big gap between November and January where almost nothing happened in the news. And then it really started and it's been bang, 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 bang. A lot of stage 2 things. There were a few, stage 1 thing in between, but we can see the crisis is moving along. We don't know how long it's going to take. It could be a few weeks, a few months, potentially a year or two. It's really hard to say. The timing is the most hard thing to predict or to forecast, but we're just seeing that the crisis is moving along. So back to the comment of Jerome Powell earlier, which is saying, they are looking at the situation, but everything is fine. I don't believe it. So if you want more details, feel free to pause, but basically this is some of the snapshots from the testimony of Bernd Bernanke, which you can find on the Fed's website. And it's really, confirming what I just said about the fact that when you compare the current crisis and how small it can be versus the global financial system, it's basically the same thing that we were seeing back then. And it doesn't matter if people are not exposed a lot. Once panic sets, it's like a run on the bank here. People just sell because it takes less time and energy to just sell and then figure out what you want to do than to investigate if it's actually safe to keep it there. And here there was something else as well, which is, when the confidence of short-term investors is damaged, it just starts the whole thing. So that's why you don't need something major to happen to actually start a crisis. Now the fun part. So if you stayed until now, you will learn something really good. It doesn't mean you have to use it, but just knowing it exists can change your life. So this is a strategy I teach my client because it's a way that when people get on a trade, most of people buy at the top. And then if it goes down, they're like, oh, I wish I could get back at breakeven. But the breakeven might take a while to come back, or it might never come back. And so with this strategy, for zero cost, there's actually a way to potentially get out much before everyone. So I'll explain quickly the setups here. All right, so let's look at GDX here. It's an ETF that most people know. It's about the gold miners. And recently, there's been a a big crash, actually bigger than the one from January, I think. And so let's say someone bought around 110, which is near the top, could have been here as well. And a few days ago it was back down to like 78, something like that. Now it's up a little bit, but basically, if you wanted to wait until it goes back to 110 to get out of the trade at breakeven, like I said, could take a while or it could never happen. And so, especially because now it's below that blue line, which is the 50-day moving average, and it's going to act as resistance. There's actually a way to get out around 100 here. And the magic happens by basically, it's like doubling your exposure without buying the share. Usually, if you want to average down, if you have 100 shares, at $110 per share, well, if you buy 100 shares at 90 per share, your average cost would be 100. So that's one way to do it. That's how most people do it. But here, the trick is, instead of buying 100 shares, you could buy a contract that gives you like a booster where you double your exposure. So it's like having 200 shares, but at 100. And then to compensate for that cost, because it's not free, you can sell 2 contracts at the 100 level. So basically you forfeit potential upside past the 100, but the goal here is just to get out at breakeven. And so by doing this, which is cost neutral, because here you are paying, for example, $10 for the contract per share. Here you are selling 2 contracts at $5 per share. So basically, it's like you are receiving 2 times $5, so $10 to pay for the $10 here. And so if there's a bounce up to the 100 level, because that's your new average price, you can get out at breakeven, whereas people here cannot. So that's really important. And if I go back to the chart here, this is actually a chart from a calculator. I'll put the link in the description below. You can go check it out, and you can make a copy and play with it if you want. It's in Google Sheets. And so here's the visualization of how it works, basically. So you can see in gray, this is if you only own shares. So basically, that's why here you can see reach 0, because that's the breakeven. So that's the price. So if the price goes up to 110, you can get a breakeven. And then if it goes higher, you can see it continues and you get some more profits, but there's no guarantee. With this strategy, the repair trade, you can see that from here, it goes up and the breakeven now is here at 100. So it's, instead of being here, it's here. And so that's why you have that possibility to get, before the expiration. So I thought you might be interested in learning about this. This is just a quick preview / introduction, because it seems like a good opportunity potentially on GDX. I was helping some clients with this recently, but I wanted to share with you some cool tips to let you understand how the power of options and how it doesn't have to be very complicated. So if you know what you're doing, you can really do things much better than most people in the market who have no clue that this exists. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe, like, and share with someone who could benefit from it. Feel free to leave me your questions in the comment below. Until next time.